Think about the last time you reacted. Not responded. Reacted. The flash of anger before you could stop it. The withdrawal that happens before you've decided to withdraw. The fear that arrives in certain moments of closeness, without an invitation, without a reason you can name. You've tried to change those things. You've understood them, named them, decided they would be different next time. And they weren't. Here's the question most people don't ask. What if those reactions aren't personality flaws, but programs? What if what you're fighting isn't your individuality, but the personality that was built over it before you had a say? Most adults know in some abstract way that childhood shapes who we become, but knowing it and seeing the mechanism are two completely different things. I had a difficult childhood. I know where it comes from. I'm working on it. And yet, the same pattern shows up in the next relationship, the same shutdown in the same kind of conflict, the same flood of feeling before the thought arrives. The gap is not lack of insight. It is not lack of effort. It is a structural mismatch. Willpower operates at the level of decision. The program operates at the level of nervous system. Effort can interrupt a behavior in the moment. That matters, that is real, but it cannot rewrite a calibration it cannot see. Daniel Siegel in The Developing Mind writes that the pattern repeating in the therapy room is not resistance. It is the patient showing the architecture of their earliest world. The pattern isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was built to do. So what built it? And when? Picture a brain. Not yours now. Yours then. Logosophiya observed this long before the neuroscience gave it a name. The child's mind is virgin and fertile land. What is planted there germinates. The infant mind, sensitive above all else, imprints in almost indelible form the images that adults engrave in it. The science confirms the image. Between birth and approximately age 7, the brain undergoes synaptogenesis, the explosive production of neural connections, followed by synaptic pruning, where circuits that are heavily used become permanent, and those unused are eliminated. Myelination accelerates the surviving pathways, making them faster, more automatic, more invisible. What a child encounters repeatedly in this window: threat, safety, unpredictability, warmth, chaos, attunement, absence, gets physically encoded in the architecture of the nervous system. The experience does not leave a trace. It becomes structure. And here is what makes this so consequential. The hippocampus, the region that forms explicit memory, is not fully functional until approximately age 3. The most formative period of your life happened before you could form a story about it. The patterns didn't become memories. They became the programs running your brain. The child who grew up in unpredictable anger didn't form a memory of danger. They formed a nervous system calibrated to it. That is a different problem, and a different kind of solution. The calibration has a specific biological mechanism. The HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system, governs the body's cortisol stress response. In early childhood, this system is highly plastic. It does something remarkable. It sets itself to the threat level of the environment. Matthew T. Burney and Tali Z. Barham are renowned researchers at the University of California, Irvine, focused on how early childhood experiences shape brain development and mental health. Research from Burney and Barham, published in Neuron in 2025, confirms that early HPA dysregulation produces lasting changes to the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, the regions governing memory, impulse regulation, and emotional response. If the early environment is chronically stressful, the HPA calibrates high, always scanning, cannot fully relax, floods before the situation warrants it. Or the opposite, a system that learned to shut down, to go numb, to disconnect, to not feel what was once dangerous to feel. Both are adaptations. Both become defaults. Neither is a character flaw. Your nervous system calibrated itself to the threat level of your childhood home. The problem is, it never received the update that you left. And among the earliest programs are the ones that govern relationship. Research by Ruth Feldman, published in Trends in Cognitive Sciences, confirms that early caregiver attunement shapes the right hemisphere's development, measurably altering oxytocin receptor density, amygdala reactivity, vagal tone. These are not personality preferences. They are biological architectures built in the first 2 years of life that shape the capacity for trust and connection across the entire lifespan. The child who learned that proximity leads to disappointment builds an avoidant program. The child whose caregiver was unpredictable builds an anxious one, monitoring constantly because missing the signal once cost too much. The child whose caregiver was both safe and dangerous builds a disorganized program, one where closeness and threat are neurologically linked. These programs don't stay in childhood. They become the default lens through which every new relationship is filtered. The brain cannot easily distinguish old relational threat from present reality. It applies the inherited program to the new situation. And the pattern repeats. Not because the adult chose it, because the program is running. None of this is permanent. Adult neuroplasticity is real. Hippocampal volume can increase with intervention. EMDR produces measurable changes in amygdala prefrontal connectivity. The same plasticity that made early experience so disproportionately powerful is what makes rewiring possible. But neuroplasticity does not operate automatically. The brain doesn't change because someone decides it should. It changes through specific mechanisms, new relational experiences that offer the nervous system different data, repeated different emotional responses, conscious attention to patterns as they arise, catching the program in the act and choosing in that moment differently. Effort and intention matter, but they need something to work on. They need to know what they're facing. You cannot reroute a program you cannot see. Logosophia, a science of the inner individual, names this precisely. What was installed in childhood without our conscious participation does not become less powerful by being ignored. In fact, it becomes more powerful, operating as if it were the self, precisely because it has never been examined. The work of self-knowledge in this view is not therapy. It is an ongoing practice of honest interior observation, seeing what is actually running, naming it without self-condemnation, and choosing, from that clarity, how to act. Not once, every time. Three starting points, concrete ones. The first, archaeology, not blame. Identify one automatic pattern and ask, when did this first appear? What environment was it a response to? What was it accurately adapted for? You are not assigning fault. You are locating the program in time. The second, somatic attention. The nervous system signals its state in the body before thought arrives. The tightening in the chest, the drop in energy, the urge to leave. The practice is learning to catch the signal at that level before the story fully forms and ask, is this situation actually threatening, or does it only pattern match to something old? The third, the question itself. In the moment the program is running, when the urge to withdraw, escalate, or control has arrived, ask it, is this real or is this old? The question interrupts the program. Not permanently, not painlessly, but interruption is how alternative circuits begin to form. You are not your programs. But until you can see the programs that were built before you had a choice, you will likely keep running them, reacting to a present moment through a nervous system calibrated by a past environment. The programs are not destiny. They can be examined, they can be understood, and with awareness, honest effort, and in many cases the support of others who know how to look, they can be changed. That process begins with a single act, looking at what is actually there. Somewhere in your adult life, there is a pattern that repeats, a reaction, a relational dynamic, a fear that doesn't quite make sense to you. If something in this video named something you already knew but hadn't found words for, that recognition is worth staying with. Leave a thought in the comments, not to explain, just to name. What stayed with you? If this video gave you something useful, share it. And if you want to go deeper into interior life, the psychology of awareness, and the science behind how we think and react, subscribe to Above the Loop. See you in the next one.